This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig, not in the studio. I am live in Florida, actually, for the PFL championships this week for my what I'm calling a work-cation. But we are still live in your life here on 97.3 ESPN, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And Nick Sirianni apparently is too busy doing things. Mike Gill just sent me. I appreciate it. Mike Garofalo reporting the Eagles are trading Joe Flacco to the Jets. So Flacco is going to return to New York, which is why you picked up Reed Stinnett. This Eagles team is driving me nuts. So we're going to get to all of that. You can text into the show, 609-403-0973. We'll get to your text throughout the show here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Also, we'll touch on the Sixers because, honestly, the Sixers winning last night was the only saving grace for Philadelphia this weekend. Also, I'll play my interview with Chris Wade. He's fighting in the PFL Championship Finals for the 2021 season. We'll play that coming up at 6:20 tonight. And I want to hear from you guys, like I said, throughout the show, 609-403-0973. You know, part of me wonders, is Nick Sirianni not speaking yet? Because I'm listening to the Sports Bash down here, waiting for the man, Nick Sirianni, to come and speak. And we haven't heard from him. You know why? Because I think he realizes that when he told John Clark this quote yesterday, how ridiculous he sounds. John Clark asked Nick Sirianni after the game about the slow start in the first half, the mistakes, and so on. This is what Sirianni told John Clark. And when I saw this, I couldn't believe Sirianni was this dense. But maybe this is part of the reason why he still hasn't walked to the podium yet, okay? Quote, this is Nick Sirianni's words. I felt it was a lack of possessions. This is the ultimate team game. We have got to get the ball back from our defense to our offense. It felt a little bit out of rhythm because of the lack of possessions. So again, Sirianni is throwing this passive-aggressive shade at the defense, overlooking the fact that his own offense has been ill-equipped, ill-prepared, and the play calling is horrible. And apparently in the Eagles' mind, the solution to all of that is to, just trade Joe Flacco and pick up Reed Stinnett. Now, I mean that tongue-in-cheek, obviously. But think about that for a second. That offense went out there. They played out of their mind for one drive. And you're like, finally, Sirianni learned something the last 10 days. And then everything went sideways after that. Now, I'm not taking blame away from Jalen Hurts and the rest of the offense. Jordan Mailata did not have a good game. Lane Johnson, you could tell he was not 100% physically. I don't think the mental – I saw somebody mention this online. Let me tell you something. Lane Johnson's mind is fine right now. The problem with Lane is I don't think he was physically 100% for that game because he had missed 3 weeks of football. But everyone didn't play well. Hurts – I don't know what Rager's doing half the time. I really don't. Mailata didn't play well. Lane Johnson didn't play well. Jason Kelsey, you should know better, getting that dumb penalty. But at the end of the day, Nick Sirianni wants to throw the defense under the bus. And I can't understand this guy. I'm starting to wonder more and more if Nick Sirianni is the kind of guy who's great in the interview, but not great when it comes to actually doing the job. We've all met those people. There are these people out there, they're great at interviews. They're great at talking to people. They're really great at selling their sales pitch, right? But they're not great at actually executing the job because they lack experience. They lack the ability to actually do the job. It's absolutely insane to me that this coach now has delayed his press conference. And I understand what the excuse is going to be. Sirianni's excuse is going to be, well, we want to get all the details in the trade and talk about the trade. That sounds great. That's a nice, convenient excuse. But I think what it really comes down to is Sirianni is proving more and more that he was ill-equipped for this job. He was ill-equipped to do the job asked of him and hired to do. And they hired almost no veteran coaches to support him. He looked lost, dazed, and confused on Sunday. And when the leader of your football team does not have a game plan, you know what happens? It affects everyone else. The quarterback is ineffective. The offensive line makes mistakes. The defense lacks confidence. And we'll get to Fletcher Cox's comments in just a moment. But when the head of the football team is this ill-equipped and incompetent to do a job, I'm telling you guys, I'm wondering, did Jeffrey Lurie hire a guy who sold him a bill of goods, but he couldn't execute? I'm just saying, it's something to think about. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of CLC. You can text into the show, 609-403-0973. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN, as I am live down here in Florida for the PFL championships this week. Matt and Cape May Courthouse, Jeff over on the YouTube. I'm going to get to both of your comments in just a moment. But I can't let go what Fletcher Cox said yesterday. When Fletcher Cox came out and complained about the defense, he spoke to my soul. He spoke to me because I told you guys weeks ago that this defense was playing passive, that this defense was not going out there and just firing on all cylinders. Jonathan Gannon has not done a good job. He hasn't done as horrible as Sirianni, but I don't understand why for half of your schedule, you go out there and you play solid, the good defense. Okay? And then the rest of the schedule, you go out there and you do nothing. And your solution, Nick Sirianni, is to throw your defense under the bus. Because Sirianni, like the people before him, talk about, I got to do a better job. But they actually can't do a better job because they won't take responsibility for their own actions. You can't get better if you don't actually take responsibility for what you did wrong. I'm starting to wonder, is Sirianni the right man for this job? I'm starting to think not. And I think the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, made a horrible miscalculation in hiring this guy. Now, I'm not saying that I specifically have a person that was better than Sirianni, but you have to think, while the offense has played overall better than the Doug Peterson era, let me ask you something. And think about this very carefully. Is the team really better? They look better on paper. They made offseason moves. They're supposed to have these great young coaches. Steichen's the guy that mentored Justin Herbert last year, right? Nick Sirianni's the guy who worked under Frank Reich. And Jonathan Gannon's supposed to be the defensive coordinator of the future. And Brian Johnson, one of the best offensive minds in college. And you put up that slop on Sunday in Vegas with 10 days to prepare? Something is not adding up, people. Meanwhile, the Eagles, as I mentioned earlier, are trading Joe Flacco. Yeah, Joe Flacco to the Jets. Great. That's just great. And I'm telling you right now, That's why Sirianni hasn't walked to the podium when he was supposed to. Because they're going to use this Flacco trade as a shield and a cover to potentially not answer questions that need to be answered. Now, according to Adam Schefter, the Jets are trading a conditional 6th-round pick to Philadelphia. It could possibly be a 5th-rounder based on playing time for Joe Flacco. So, in theory, the Eagles are getting back the pick that they traded away for Gardner Minshew. Now, Minshew's the number 2 quarterback. I don't know what this says about Hurts. I don't know what this says about the offense. But if the Eagles were willing to trade Joe Flacco, I don't know what's going on with this team. I really don't. Let's get some of your messages here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank CLC. Of course, Game Night being brought to you, my friends, over at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. Bet on all the action and style this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And I hope everyone's okay after the Eagles lost yesterday. I really do, because I think we're all losing our sanity with this coaching staff. Get a couple of your messages here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Matt and Cape May Courthouse sent a long text in here. Want to get to as much of it as I can. Matt and Cape May Courthouse says, I'm not going to sit here and say this coaching staff isn't good enough, but I do want to see some adjustments and improvements down the stretch. I am more concerned with the defense than I am with the offense. They have good corners and play zone. I don't understand. I don't think Hurts is good enough right now, but I'm willing to see if he can get better. A couple things, Matt. Number one, I don't know what adjustments can be made. Matt, Cape May Courthouse, I agree with the rest of your text, but the one part I wanted to touch on, I don't know if there's adjustments and improvements if you had 10 days to prepare for the Raiders. You had one drive that looked really, really good. And then you go out there and you just can't do anything else the rest of the time. I don't understand it, folks. And Matt Game Courthouse is right. We don't understand why they're insisting on running a zone. I agree with Matt. I think Jalen Hurts can be a good quarterback. But Sirianni is doing him no favors. I think Sirianni is a huge problem right now. And Matt Game Courthouse is right. You look at the Bengals. You look at Zach Taylor. You look what's going on with Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow was a better college prospect than Jalen Hurts was. Anybody who watches football understands that. But you know what the difference is? And Matt Game Courthouse brings up a great point. Zach Taylor has done a better job at putting Joe Burrow in position to be successful than Sirianni has with Hurts. Jeff over on the YouTube channel chimes in to Game Night on 97.3 ESPN and says, I definitely don't want to hear Nick say I have to call better plays. I'm tired of hearing him say that. At this point, it's either do or give up the job to somebody who can call good plays. Here's the problem, Jeff. I'm starting to wonder, is Sirianni kind of like Doug Peterson, the fact that he feels like, well, I get to be the head coach. I should be allowed to call the plays. Now, there are plenty of coaches who have given up play calling for indeterminate amount of time. You know, there's stories about how Andy Reid gave up play calling for a little bit to Brad Childress and other guys in game or from one game to a next, or Andy would plan out the first 20 plays and then the OC would go out there and call maybe a quarter or a half or something. We know that Matt Nagy at one point gave up the play calling in Chicago. There's a history of coaches in this league who are supposed to be play callers who went out there and gave up the play calling. The problem is, I don't think Sirianni is capable. I don't think he's capable of understanding the difference. And now you trade one of the few veterans on your team. You already traded Zach Ertz. Okay. By the way, it was great to see Zach go out there and get a nice touchdown, show out with the Cardinals. But now you traded Flacco. And this was the problem I had last year in Philadelphia. Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, and Nate Sudfeld was the quarterback room. And I said, finally, you got Joe Flacco, at least a veteran in there who can go out there. And when they have conversations, he can give information to the young quarterback that you're not getting elsewhere. And now you're leaving the young quarterbacks to fend for their own again. I hate this move. I know why they did it. Because the Jets are desperate. The Jets need help. Howie's taking advantage of the situation. And Nick Sirianni wants cover, so when he goes to the podium and says something stupid again, we won't remember. Well, guess what, Nick? Nothing you say, unless you completely apologize, is going to make up for you throwing the quarterback under the bus. By the way, here's the latest quote from Sirianni, who finally decided to go to the podium and speak almost 2 hours after he was scheduled. Quote, "We feel really good about Gardner Minshew being our number 2 quarterback. That's great. Thanks, Nick." You know what I feel great about too? I feel great about my next interview coming up. Chris Wade, great dude. He's from the tri-state area. He's going to join the show coming up next. I recorded this with him before I flew down to Florida. He's fighting for the PFL championship this Wednesday night on ESPN2. Hear from him next, because we all need a break from the insanity that is Sirianni. Also on the other side, I will get to how the Sixers saved Philadelphia's weekend. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Hennig back here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of CLC. We're going to change things up a little bit because this Eagles stuff and this Sixers stuff is too much to let go. So we're going to hang out with you guys. So keep the text coming, 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you guys. Listen, I'll get to the Sixers in a bit, but I think that when we get to this Eagles stuff, and Nick Sirianni's speaking right now, and I mean, the guy just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. Let me read you some of the crazy things that Nick Sirianni's trying to sell you, the fans, on right now. And you can text in about the Eagles' loss yesterday, because I can't, I'm not the guy who says blame the coach. I'm not that guy. I'm not. But in this case, I can't not blame him. I don't know who Sirianni is. I don't know what he is. Nothing he does makes sense. The Eagles are trading Flacco, and part of his reason is we feel good about Gardner Minshew being our number 2. What? How? Why? In what world? I don't understand Sirianni. He's got to be the biggest salesman I've ever heard. And if you just look at the pictures of his face in this press conference, he has a look of a man who doesn't want to be there because he knows how ridiculous he sounds. He knows how ridiculous he is. I'm telling you guys, I am thoroughly convinced. I'm convinced that Nick Sirianni's the guy who sold Jeffrey Lurie a bill of goods and then tried to tell him, I'm the best coach for this job. And he's not. He's not at all. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. All of you Eagle fans, I feel so bad for you. I mean, this head coach literally told everybody last night that it was the defense's fault why they didn't have more possessions. Not that you have a situation where, maybe if you ran the ball more, you'd have an opportunity to be in short yardage. Why on earth is Gainwell only getting 50% of the snaps of the game last night, where Miles Sanders goes down with an injury on Sunday evening? Oh, but you only got Gainwell on the field 50% of the time. What is that? Who does Sirianni think he is? I'll tell you who he thinks he is. Sirianni is the guy who thinks he's got it all figured out. And he doesn't. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's flying by the seat of his pants, folks. I was wrong. I thought the Eagles would cover the 3. I thought the Eagles would go out there with 10 days to prepare. You give reasonable people time to prepare for something, they go out there and execute. I'm down here in Florida with the PFL. And these are some amazing athletes preparing to fight on Wednesday on ESPN2, the PFL MMA. And you have a situation where these athletes, they're ready. They're cutting weight. They're going out there to play. You know what Nick Sirianni does? He has one good offensive drive. One. And you know what he does with that offensive drive? He forgets about it. And then when Miles Sanders gets injured, all of a sudden Boston Scott comes out of hiding, and then you get away from Gainwell? Can I just bring up again what Matt and Cape May Courthouse said on the text board at 609-403-0973? I love what Matt said. Matt gets it. Let me read you a little bit further down on Matt's text. This is some long text. But Matt and Cape May Courthouse gets it. He talks about how Zach Taylor, the job he's done with Joe Burrow. That they went from 13-3 to 5-2. Now, Matt Cape May Courthouse says it's a wait-and-see approach. And I get you, Matt. But remember, Zach Taylor went 13-3 without Joe Burrow. Without the star quarterback. All of a sudden, he gets the quarterback back. Maybe there's something to this Zach Taylor thing. By the way, may I remind you who Zach Taylor's brother is? Press Taylor. You know, the buddy of Carson Wentz. Jeff chimes in on the YouTube channel at 973 ESPN. Jeff says, my friend says Nick should get Ben Simmons on offense since Nick doesn't want to score. Can we talk about the Sixers for a minute, please? You know, while the Eagles are making us all miserable, the Sixers salvaged our weekend. You know, the 76ers lost a game they should have won on Friday night. And then they finally finished the game on Sunday to stop the losing in Philadelphia. The Flyers won a game that was winnable. They lost it. They didn't win. They could have won. I'm watching that Flyers game on one screen. I got a college football game on the other screen on Saturday night. And I'm looking over at the Flyers. And I'm thinking, they might have a chance to win this game. And then they just went cold in the third period. It was just sad to watch. And then I got to wake up the next day, and I'm waiting for Eagles football, just like the rest of you. And then Nick Sirianni goes out there and implodes. Jonathan Gannon, I don't even know if he knows what he's doing. I don't know if any of this coaching staff knows what they're doing. But at least the Sixers went out there, and Seth Curry and the 76ers hit 17 three-pointers. 17! You know, the 76ers said, we lost a game. We're going to be better the next game. You know what the Eagles did? The Eagles were better for one drive. The Sixers saved us all from losing our minds. They really did. Now, I don't know how many of you actually watched the whole Sixers game, because I'm sure some of you were consuming the Eagles post-game stuff and the end of the Eagles game because you wanted to hear different people talk about the game. But I'm telling you guys, that three-point performance by the 76ers, and I understand it's against OKC, but OKC is a feisty team. They're going to fight you tooth and nail all the way through. The Eagles can't do what the Sixers did. Now, it's not all because of the coach. You know, I'm not thoroughly convinced that Doc Rivers is the greatest coach of all time. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to get up here and act like Doc Rivers is some genius or something. But I can tell you what Doc Rivers is. He's not Nick Sirianni. I'm telling you guys, I was so disgusted by that Eagles game. And I couldn't stop watching it because it was like a car wreck. It was like when you're driving down the highway and you look to your right and you see the police pull somebody over, or you see a car wreck and you're like, wonder what happened over here. I'm going to look over and see what's going on over here. The guy's driving a Civic, a red one. Looks a little shady. Oh, he hit that car in front of him. Oh, man. That's what it's like watching the Eagles now. The Eagles are a train wreck. And the 76ers salvaged the Philadelphia weekend. Now, they didn't start the weekend good, the 76ers. They didn't. No. They should have won that game Friday night. Didn't win it. Should have won. But didn't. To me, the game on Friday night was symbolic of what you miss with Ben Simmons out of the lineup. Part of the reason why Ben Simmons is in Philadelphia is because he plays defense. If Ben Simmons couldn't play defense, nobody would care in Philadelphia. At least in the coaching staff and the franchise. I understand that Ben Simmons a couple of years ago led the NBA in three-pointers off assists. And I understand that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they had the most wins of a duo in the NBA last year. But let's be realistic. Ben Simmons is here for his defense. We know that. Ben Simmons is a solid ball handler. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's explosive. He plays aggressive defense. But he's not here if he couldn't play defense. Listen, back in the late 90s, the Cavaliers have a guy named Brevin Knight. Brevin Knight could only do one thing. He was really good at assists. He was a very mediocre player by NBA standards. Probably below average. Man, he could get assists. And, that's what the Eagles make you feel like they're doing. The Eagles are the team that goes out there and they give you a little hope. They give you a little promise. They give you a little something. And they can't deliver the goods. They can't. They can't deliver. Listen, I think the Sixers redeemed themselves on Sunday, something the Eagles couldn't do. The Philadelphia Eagles, like I said, they had 10 days off. What is their excuse? The Sixers had, 2 days to get it turned around? And they did. Now, again, part of it was because you hit 17 threes. That helps. That certainly helps the situation. It does. But you know what? It doesn't fix the fact that they should have won the game on Friday. By the way, Matt in K-Bay Courthouse follows up at 609-403-0973 and says, Ben Simmons will like playing with this team. They are shooting way more threes than last year, something I thought they should have done more of last year. Well, I think there's two reasons why Matt in K-Bay Courthouse are shooting more threes. I think number one, it's actually in part because of the changes they made to the roster. Getting guys like Gorgie Yang, guys like him, a legitimate backup for Tobias Harris. Niang is a stretch four. He's a legitimate backup for Tobias. I think that's a big part of it. I think another part of it is the fact that you can tell that this team wants to put space around Joel Embiid. They understand they have to space out the floor around Embiid. So it makes sense. Now, you're not going to hit 17 threes every night. I mean, if they did, that'd be insane. But you know what? I don't think it can be overlooked that the Sixers are still a very good team without Ben Simmons. Can they win a championship without Ben Simmons? Not unless they replace him with a player of similar or better caliber. You're not going to trade Ben Simmons away for nothing. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see Andrew Lang, Jeff Hornacek, and Tim Perry in return for Ben Simmons. I mean, the Eagles just traded Joe Flacco for a draft pick. Probably the same draft pick you gave up for Gardner Minshew. A 6th-round pick that could turn to a 5th-round pick. Great. You got the draft pick back, you traded away. That's cute. I'm disgusted with the Eagles team, folks. I am just disgusted. I don't understand their problem. I don't understand their deal. I don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. I really don't. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, the show being brought to you by friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, your place to watch sports all season long. Football Saturday, Sunday, and Monday Night Football tonight, which you can hear on 97.3 ESPN, or you can watch it over to that FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Catch all the games you love with their state-of-the-art TVs, betting kiosks, and more. Get in the game with FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Come up, we'll get more of your messages on the other side here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Text board is open 609-403-0973. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Coming up next, I'll tell you guys why I'm not in the studio. What am I doing down here? Why am I on a work-cation? I'll explain it to you guys next. Josh Hennig hanging out with you, taking your reaction to the Eagles' loss, the Sixers' weekend, and more. Also, we'll recap quickly the busy football weekend right here. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Hennig back here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Get to more of your texts in a moment. John in Wilmington will check in with you and the Sixers in just a moment. Just want to remind you guys, of course, the night being brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook over at Bally's on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. All the action style, all football season and basketball season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Before we get to the text and everything, and I love all the feedback you guys are giving me today, I just wanted to let you guys know. So I know some people are probably wondering, where is Josh today? You know, Josh is always working, it seems like. Well, I'm on a work-cation, for those who don't know. The PFL MMA, you've heard me covering them in the past in Atlantic City. Well, I'm down here in Florida for their championships. Wednesday night, 4:30 p.m. is the prelims that start on ESPN Plus, and then you flip over to ESPN2 for the main card at night. Of course, Kayla Harrison going for back-to-back season championships in the PFL. Of course, they took a hiatus because of the lockdowns, but Kayla won in 2019. Also, Chris Wade from the tri-state area fighting for the 2021 featherweight season championship. Of course, the PFL is very different than regular MMA organizations. They have a season-long, like other sports, like football, basketball, baseball. There's a season. You have to qualify to get into the playoffs. You have to win to get in. And once you're in the playoffs, you earn your way to a championship and a shot at $1 million. So everyone who wins a championship, there'll be 6 people who win on Wednesday night for $1 million. Some amazing fights. Of course, we will hear from Chris Wade tomorrow on Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Chris is 9-1 in Atlantic City. So fighting in Atlantic City this year really helped elevate him to get to the championship. We'll talk about that all with him tomorrow here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Couple texts I want to get to before we get out of here. And, of course, we'll recap the football weekend in just a moment. John in Wilmington. I love his text that came in here. It says, Sixers still need a closer at the end of games like they had with Jimmy Butler. And B seems to struggle late in the fourth quarter. I'm telling you, John in Wilmington, the more time goes by, the more I'm convinced that if the Sixers would have kept Jimmy Butler and traded Ben Simmons, if they would have picked Butler over Simmons, I feel comfortable saying the 76ers would have gotten to at least the conference finals, if not an NBA final. And I know people are going to say out there, well, and I've heard this before. There are people who think the only reason why the Miami Heat got to the NBA finals was because they were in the bubble and they were built for the bubble. I've said 100 times, I think one of the hardest things to do in all of sports was to win during the lockdowns and the COVID situations last year. That was emotionally taxing and draining on a lot of people. That strained a lot of people's lives, mentalities, relationships, mental health. It was a mess last year. So I give the Heat a lot of credit for taking it to the Lakers in the finals. And I think if Jimmy Butler was on the 76ers instead of Ben Simmons, I think Butler and Embiid and Harris would have been a much better trio. Because Jimmy and Joel play off of each other, offensively and defensively. Now, you would have lost Ben Simmons, in certain areas of the game, but I think Butler, as John in Wilmington says, him being a close in the fourth quarter would have made for some of those losses. And whoever you would have traded Ben Simmons for at the time, you could have gotten someone who complimented you. You could have gotten somebody who made sense. Maybe another point guard, ball handler. I just think that you could have done it. Now, I don't know how successful you would have been with it, but I think you at least got into a conference finals. All right, let's review the football weekend. If you want to squeeze in one more comment on the Eagles, Sixers, or the sports weekend, text in 609-403-0973. That's 609-403-0973, or jump on at 973 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter. Josh Hennig down here in Florida for the PFL championships Wednesday night. ESPN Plus and ESPN2. 6 fighters will win $1 million on Wednesday night. I won't be on the air Wednesday. I'll be on the air tonight and tomorrow night down here, and I'll be at the fights on Wednesday night. Of course, don't forget the Sports Bash. Mike Gill back in action tomorrow at 2 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Football weekend, a couple things I noticed for the weekend. First of all, in college football, that Penn State-Illinois game that we had here on 97.3 ESPN was probably one of the most insane things I've ever seen. And having it on the radio was amazing to listen to. Just the absolute chaos of that game going to overtime. Penn State, massive upset loss. Absolutely insane situation. How about the UCLA-Oregon game? It feels like every time Oregon is going to do something, they have a reason why you can't believe in them still. College football is nuts right now. I think the only team we know for sure who they are is Georgia. Oklahoma, flaws. They struggled against Kansas, for goodness sake. Kansas! I don't know what Cincinnati is. I mean, I thought Navy would give them a fight, but I didn't think Cincinnati had trouble showing up. And how about the Army-Wake Forest game? That game, each team got over on the over-under. The over-under for the game was 51.5. Both teams scored more than the over-under. And then in the NFL, Matt from KB Courthouse mentioned it earlier, 5-2, the Bengals. You got to give Zach Taylor credit. You got to give Joe Burrow credit. You got to give the Bengals front office credit for drafting Jamar Chase. The dude is a freak, and him and Burrow have a very bad special connection. I'm still a little worried about Burrow getting injured. That offensive line is not great, but they're playing well enough. Got to give the Bengals credit. How about the Chiefs? They are struggling right now. I'm almost wondering, did Patrick Mahomes hit his sophomore slump this year instead of in his usual second year? Maybe it took the league a little bit of time to figure it out. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.